What's good, folks? It's NightmareFrame here with a new Warframe video coming at you with the top melees after the changes. And what are these changes? These changes were done to Condition Overload, Bloodrush, and Berserker. It reduces the percentage of Bloodrush from 60 to 40%. This hurts a lot of melees that were trying to keep up with the best melees out there. So now if you have under 19% crit chance, you're going to be struggling to do those crits. So you need to be at 19% minimum just to hit 100% crit chance on your melee. And the other change was Condition Overload. It went from 120% stacking damage to 80%. But this Condition Overload change wasn't that significant, so it wasn't really noticeable. But another change here was Berserker Fury. It was called Berserker, now it's Berserker's Fury. And this cannot stack with Fury. So they made this an additive bonus and on the condition to kill. So instead of critting, you now have to kill an enemy for you to get the attack speed. Before it was a multiplicative bonus, now it is a additive bonus. This was an undocumented change. Basically now making this mod a more of a mandatory mod and more of a flex attack speed mod on pretty much any melee. So you don't have to crit anymore. That's the good side. And the slightly bad side is that it's an additive bonus and you need to kill, which is not that bad. So for those who've been logging in for a lot of days, you can just replace it with Fury. Now, what are the benefits of running Fury instead of Berserker's Fury? And Berserker's Fury is better off used in a solo environment if you're doing a survival where you're surrounded by enemies, so your kills are just stacking up, so you can always maintain this buff. Prime Fury is really good for those quick missions or missions with a lot of downtime. What do I mean by that? So if you're going into a capture, rescue, or an exterminate, you want to have your buff up and ready. So Prime Fury is a great mod for that. Or if you're doing long disruption missions where there is a lot of downtime, especially when you're tracking down the Demolist, you want to have an attack speed buff all the time. Now, for those who don't have Prime Fury, you can always use Quickening. It is a lower buff, but it gives you that chance to gain combo, which is pretty nice. And no worries, guys, you can always fit Arcane Strike onto your build to give you that 60% attack speed. And this does stack well. And don't forget, there are Rivens. Rivens will also give you those attack speed bonuses. Usually the Riven that you want to go for is crit damage, attack speed, range with a negative. Why negative? Because they greatly increase the attributes of your positives. So CD, attack speed, range, negative. If your disposition is low or on a downside, try to go for 2 positives, and depending on what your weapon needs. So usually you're going to be replacing Organ Shatter on your build, right, with a Riven. So that's why you always go with crit damage and other sources. So crit damage attack speed with a negative, especially weapons that really need that attack speed like heavy blades, or you can go crit damage range for weapons that do need range like scythes. And now with the changes to Bloodrush and weapons that are struggling to keep up with crit chance, having crit chance on your Riven can be beneficial. So you can go with a crit chance, crit damage, attack speed, negative. You definitely want to have crit damage there so you can be replacing Organ Shatter. Guys, I want you to pay attention to this segment of the video because I'll be going over how to mod for pretty much all combo melees. This is where you want to pick a stance. Usually most stances are great, but there are some bad stances that can slow down your TTK, time to kill, and your KPS, kills per second, and DPS, damage per second. Because stances have force procs, where they can force proc a physical damage type, allowing you to have multi-procs of said damage type. Or you can have stances that actually have better multipliers in damage. Also, if you've realized, they changed Reaping Spiral to a gold rarity. This used to be blue. Anyway, and in this case, it's a scythe, so placeholder for pretty much any combo melee. For a weapon that has really high slash weighting, meaning your slash damage is pretty high, you're going to be modding for something like Viral. Why Viral? Because it complements your slash and bleeds. Slash damage is horrible against armor, but the bleed status effect is great to damage the health. Here's the thing you have to know, guys. The damage type and the status effects are 2 separate things. They do different things. For example, Puncture is really good against ferrite armor, but the status effect is useless and horrible powerful. You see how that works? That's why Corrosive can be really great damage against ferrite armor, but it's a neutral damage to alloy. Why? Because Corrosive status effect, it's pretty good at stripping armor, but the increased damage is different against different armor types. And you have 3 different armor types out there: ferrite, alloy, and infested sinew. And infested sinew is pretty similar to alloy. So this is a thing you have to know. The viral damage type isn't what makes viral great, but it's status effect. Why? Because a 10 stacks allows you to do multiplicative damage to the health. That's a 325% damage multiplier. And then if you combine that with bleeds, which damages the health directly, you see how you're going to get more damage. And then you're going to have other forms of multiplier: crits, your faction mods. Your faction mods allow you to double dip in damage with DOTs. DOTs are damage over time, like toxin, heat, bleeds, which we're talking about right now. And this is a 2.4 damage multiplier. If you want to calculate it, you'll get 2.4205. Something like that. The initial damage is going to give you a multiplier and the damage over time. And bleeds have different instances of damage. So one bleed tick can do a certain amount. The other bleed tick can be multiplied even more. So let's take a look at your basic modding when it comes to elements. Right now, since we're going to be modding just for Corrosive, we're going to start off with our stacking damage. Condition overload will increase your damage with each unique status effect on a target. These are unique status effects, not the same one. So you want different elements, different damage types on a target for your damage to be increased. And this is additive damage. So putting pressure point and condition overload is redundant, and you will get diminishing returns. What are diminishing returns? Too much of one thing will give you little to no results in damage increase. So that's why you just want condition overload, because we're going to be stacking different multipliers. And then we're going to put our Bloodrush. This is your stacking crit chance with combo. So the more combo you build up, the more crit chance you get. All right. And now comes down to your range. Why range? Because you want to hit multiple targets. And weapons have different follow-through. Follow-through is pretty important in melee. So follow-through will determine the amount of damage you deal in a group of enemies. Your first strike will deal 100% of the damage. The second enemy will get 60% of the damage. And then the third one will get reduced damage. Range also benefits a bit of follow-through because you're hitting multiple targets at once. So you want your damage to be there and matter. And this also helps you build up combo because more enemies hits, faster combo, wider reach. Range is super important. Do not underestimate this. This benefits combo melees, not thrown or gunblades. And then you want your attack speed. Remember what I said about Fury, Berserker Fury? So depending on how you play or what you're playing, you can either go with Prime Fury or Berserker Fury. So in this case, we're going to be running Prime Fury. Now comes your utility mods and more multipliers. Our first multiplier was crit chance. Now we need to multiply our critical damage. So critical damage determines the amount of damage your crits deal, because you have your base damage and then your crits are going to multiply the type of base damage you're dealing, and then your critical multiplier is going to multiply the crits that you dealt. So it's a damage increase. Okay, and then we're going to be putting our Weeping Wounds. Weeping Wounds is stacking status chance, which is very good. So you don't have to mod for dual elemental mods, giving you status chance. This will get you over 100% depending on your base status chance. Okay, and now comes our elemental mods. We're going to be modding for Corrosive. We're going to be putting our Fever Strike. You can put regular one or Prime Fever Strike. The more elemental damage we put, of course, the more damage you're going to deal. And our Corrosive is Toxin and Electric. There you go, Corrosive. This is your basic Corrosive build. Again, you notice that there is no faction mods. And this is where we come back to our discussion earlier about damage and their status effects. Since we just want raw damage, we want to be dealing raw corrosive damage, we can replace Weeping Wounds with a faction mod. So it's up to you. Want to deal more damage to the target and not worry about proccing corrosive? Then that's what you can do. Now that we got corrosive out of the way, it is time to mod for viral. Remember what I said about viral, that the damage type isn't really what makes viral great, but its status effect? And this is why. Because we want our slash damage to have a higher weighting. Why is this? Because to increase its proc priority. How does this work? Depending on the percentage of your damage type, modded or unmodded, right, it has a higher chance to proc depending on your status chance. Right there with the corrosive build, we had more corrosive, so our corrosive procced a lot more. In this case, our slash damage is the highest. So we wanted to be the one proccing the most. So if we were to mod for viral, that's more like it. And now we'll put our Weeping Wounds because we want viral to proc there, but we also want the slash to go off. So this is how you usually mod for viral. But then is this how you're going to be dealing a lot of damage? Now, there's even a better setup on this. And weapons that usually have high amounts of slash damage, we don't even need to mod for viral because we're going to get our viral procs from primers, utility weapons that allow us to proc other status effects, so we can deal more damage and have more multipliers. Why is this stronger? You'll see why. So here we're going to put our smite mod, which is our damage multiplier towards the faction. And then comes our utility mods. Usually we can go for more critical damage, and this gives us the gladiator set bonus. Basically, building up combo will give us another instance of crits like Bloodrush. And if you want more range, you can go with spring-loaded blade. And in this situation, we're using the Reaper. For example, it has base 35% crit chance. So that's quite a lot. So if you want more range, you can go with spring-loaded blade. Or if you want with more crits and crit damage, you can go with Gladiator Mites. This is going to be your non-elemental build, and it's heavy in slash damage. And we're going to use one of the 3 best primers out there. The best primer, of course, is Kuva Nukor. Why Kuva Nukor? Because it can come with a selected element of your choice, because the Kuva weapon, and here I went with magnetic. That is one unique status effect right there. And then it has base radiation. That's our second one. And I modded it for viral. Third one. And then with heat. Fourth, but it also has another unique effect called microwave. This actually helps you increase damage with condition overload. So that's 5 unique status effects on a target, and it's built for just utility, range, and punch through. And let's see the damage increase now with a non-elemental and a primer, and why this is the optimal setup for damage. I am using Magus Anomaly to pull in enemies, so if that's what you're wondering. So we proc. All right, that was with barely any combo, and we just killed a few. There you go. You see how this is just stronger? That's 2 hits. 164 bleed. All right, those are 2 hits. 194 bleed. Boom. 388,000 bleed tick. Yes, you can also headshot with melees. So, for example, there you go. Look at that. That's crazy, right? 400,000 bleed. You can get even higher. Now you see why this is the best way to go when you want a lot of scaling damage. This works for other melees with innate elements as well. So for example, let's bring out the Jat Kuzar. And now we're going to add more heat damage. Why? Because we want to increase our weighting. Jakusar does come with IPS, but it also comes with base heat. And you want the heat to be the dominant damage type. There you go. You're going to put your heat mod right there. Basically increase our heat damage to be the highest. You can even put a Bane mod. There we go. All right, now that we've gone over combo melees and combo setups, we can go to the heavy attack setups. Now, not all weapons can do heavy attacks and force proc bleeds. This comes down to the weapon, not the stance, just the weapon. You got sights, you got your thrown melees, you've got your tomfas, you have your nikanas, you have your machetes and whips. Usually the best melees for heavy attacks are, of course, your sights, glaives, and nikanas. Machetes are kind of different and unique because they can actually stagger enemies and put them in a dazed state, giving you stealth multiplier damage. Now, looking at the heavy attack build, we have Corrupt Charge because combo actually increases your heavy attack damage. And if you want initial combo, this is the best mod to go. Or you get a Riven to increase your initial combo even further. Killing Blow for the heavy attack damage and wind up speed, prime reach, wider swing, remember. Quickening for more attack speed. You can change this to whatever you want. To be honest, if you have Arcane Strike, you can drop out Quickening for something else. You have your Smite mod, which is a damage multiplier because we're doing bleeds, and your damage and crit chance. So there's different variants of this. You can go with a Gladiator Might setup and run Arcane Strike. You'll still notice a reduction in speed if you don't have that attack speed. So that's your heavy attack. Pretty straightforward in damage because it's initial damage. Do you notice the slight difference there? But then again, if you're running Arcane Strike, then you don't have to worry about this at all. You can drop that out for literally anything else. Glaives and gunblades are going to be different. So, taking a look at our glaive setup, we would have this. Pretty much similar to what we had before with the sights, but we do not have range because we're throwing this. And we're detonating it with Volatile Quick Return, and we're multiplying our damage with Power Throw. And you want to aim it just above the head and detonate. This is usually how glaives work. And here I even had Smite Grenadier, and you can just see how much damage we're dealing without a proper Bane mod. All right, now with the actual list. Sorry, it took so long. All right, at number 10, we got the Sylvan Aegis. We're going to be running the Heat Inherent setup. So this is our build with more heat damage, Prime Fury instead of Berserker, and we're using our Heat Inherent loadout. Go in, proc everybody with the primer, and go to town. As you can see, that's pretty deadly. There you go. All right, now at number 9, we're going to go to our regular loadouts, to the Viral Heat, and take you to the number 9 spot, which is the Grand Prime. This is heavy and slash, but horrible attack speed. So I did stack this with double attack speed mods. Drag in those enemies, prime them up, and just watch them die to all the bleed procs. With max combo, proc, swing, 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 and watch all those baddies die. There you go. All right, at number 8, we have our Pangolin Prime. Similar to the Gram, it does have quite annoying attack speed, so we went with a double attack speed build. But in this case, we're using Gladiator Vice for a little bit more crits. Dragon enemies, and go to town. Using the Crimson Dervish stance, we're going to get those crazy multi-hits and knockdowns as well. Look at that. Knockdown dead. Crazy amounts of bleeds. All right, now at number 7, we're going to go back to the Heat Inherent build. Why? Because we got ourselves the Jat Kusar. Here we go. All right, now at max combo, let's see how this actually works. Dragon enemies, proc heat on all those. Look at those heat stacks, and let's go to town. There we go. Look at that damage. Hell yeah. Remember, you can also mod this for Corrosive, and with its base heat. Also works great. Since we're done with Heat Inherent, we're going to go back to our Viral utility. Number 6, we got the Guan Dao Prime. And this is our loadout. We went with Gladiator Might in this time for the double crit damage. And we're using the Prime Fury. Let's see how this does in a larger group of enemies. Oh, they went flying. That's pretty bad. That's pretty deadly, right? Hell yeah. All right, now at number 5, we got ourselves the Reaper Prime. And the same loadout as we showed you in the test. Go in, drag in all those baddies, proc your status effects, and go to town. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Woo! Fantastic. All right, now we move up to number 4, and that is the Nami Skyla Prime. Amazing dual swords. We're going to be using Swirling Tiger for the multi-hit combo. In this case, we're going to be using Berserker. You can go Fury if you want, but this weapon has crazy amounts of attack speed already. So you can actually drop this out and go for range if you want. But attack speed's always a great DPS increase. But you don't want too much because that can also lead to diminishing returns. There you go. Now at max combo, drag everybody in, proc them. Oh yeah. Very satisfying. Now at number 3, we go to the Nikana Prime. And the build, very straightforward. Here we opted for more range and we're going with Berserker Fury. You can run with Fury if you want. Now at max combo, we're going to combine our autos and our forward and block combo. Now at number 2, we got ourselves the Cronin Prime. Similar build, but we went with spring-loaded blade. You can go with Gladiator Might if you want more crits. I would say go for it if you want. Yeah, I usually prefer more range, but people love the damage. That was the forward and block combo, which is a nice gap closer, and it has increased range with those Tonfa swings. All right, the regular combo, and everybody's dead. Hell yeah. That is the Cronin Prime, ladies and gentlemen. Now, at the number 1 spot. Y'all know this. You already knew where this was going. And, ladies and gentlemen, that is the Glaive Prime. This has crazy amounts of range, and you don't even have to build up combo. Proc. Oh yeah, one of the best melees. Crazy TTK, crazy KPS, because it has that massive AoE explosion, force procs bleeds, and does insane amounts of crits. Rivenless. And you just noticed we still have the Prime Smite Grenier instead of the Prime Smite Corrupted. Now let's actually try it with a proper Smite mod. You know what? We're not even gonna drag him in. Just proc, toss. Oh yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, these are the top 10 best melees to use right now, depending on your playstyle. Remember, all other melees are decent, they're okay. Anything under 19% crit chance is gonna struggle, but there are ways to increase your crit chance, and that's by using a Riven, using Gladiator mods, or another trick. And what is that trick? This is going to be the Combat Discipline and Arcane Avenger. So, Combat Discipline allows you to deal damage to your health when you kill an enemy, and that will trigger Arcane Avenger. And you can pair this up with healing abilities like Wisp's Motes, Gloom, or even Vazarin and Magus Elevate from your operator. So, let's see how this actually works. Alright, proc everybody. Alright, Avenger triggered. Look at our crits, how they change. Now we're consistently doing orange crits. If you had a Riven, that takes it to the next level. Remember, Avenger is percentage based, so it doesn't trigger as consistent as you want. Like, there we go, it triggered. Oh, we got a red. And you can do this with Wisp as well. Combat Discipline, Avenger, and I'm even running Ensnare, so to group up enemies even easier. So here we go with a Wisp test. Prime them. Breach Surge. Yeah. Breach Surge. Oh, yeah. Now the different primers you can use. You already seen the Nukor. You can always use the Epitaph. You can switch out Augur Seeker if you want with more multi-shot or more Toxin. Up to you. Usually would run Dexterity to increase your combo counter. And of course, the third best one is the Zakti. You can use the Zakti Prime, regular Zakti, up to you. And pretty much a similar setup with the Epitaph, with the Fulmination. And the great thing about Zakti is that it puts enemies in a dazed state, allowing you to deal stealth multiplier damage with your melee. So making it a great primer. These are the top 3 primers that you'd ever need to use. I would highly recommend using the Nukor. It's more versatile, more mobile for combo setups. Epitaph is great with the Glaive, since you can be at a distance. For example, all right, you're dragging enemies. Pump those up. Breed Surge. Toss. There you get those red crits with the Avenger proc. There you go. Epitaph is a great primer along with Nukor. All right, folks, that has been it from me. I do hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe. For more Warframe content, streams, and so much more, do refer to the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace.